Hello and welcome to Politics here on France 24. Is the far right on the rise again throughout Europe? In France, the National Front made an unexpected comeback in the regional elections last Sunday. In the Netherlands, the Freedom Party of Geert Wilders is poised for a strong performance in the parliamentary elections scheduled in June. And in addition to traditional strongholds like Italy, Austria, Switzerland, the extreme right is now emerging in Great Britain and has been gaining ground in several former communist countries. So with me to discuss this new phenomenon is Birgitta Orfali, who is an associate professor at the René Descartes University in Paris. Hello.
Hello.
Also here is Thomas Klau, who is the Paris bureau chief of the European Council on Foreign Relations. Also on the set is Stefan Brandle, who is a journalist with the Frankfurter Rundschau. Via satellite from Manchester is Matthew Goodwin, who is a research fellow at the Institute for Political and Economic Government at the University of Manchester. Hello.
Good afternoon.
And on the phone is Jérôme Jamin, who is a researcher with the Center for Ethnic and Migration Study at the University of Liège in Belgium. So let's begin the show by taking a look at the performance of the National Front in France's regional elections.
The only victory in this election, the only new thing we've seen, is the victory of the National Front.
Jean-Marie Le Pen may well celebrate. The second round of France's regional elections solidified the support his Front National party had won in the first ballot. Candidates from the far-right party were competing in 12 of the 22 regions of mainland France in the second round and had strong showings in all 12. The elderly leader himself won 23% of votes cast in his constituency, while Le Pen's daughter and heir apparent performed almost as well as her father. In her northern region, she won 22% of the vote, bolstering her further ambitions.
Beyond even the presidential elections, which I've already talked about, I congratulate our future elected representatives in regional and national elections, because I know our progress has not peaked, our march forward has only begun.
Party leader Le Pen has told his members to start preparing for the presidential elections in 2012.
So before those elections, we were told by pundits and pollsters that the National Front was in decline, was in dire straits. So is it making a real comeback, and is it a strong force for the future, Ms. Orfali?
Well, a comeback, it is always going up and down, I think, since '83, when it had success in local elections in Dreux and in the European elections in Europe in '84. So the Front National has always had ups and downs, and I think it is not dead. It has a future. The elections, the presidential election in 2002, showed that they had people who would vote for them, and showed that it could come back in an important manner, an important way. So I think it is not dead yet. And there are forces, I would say, among people who are supporting this movement, because it was before an active minority and it has become a social movement in a way. So there are people who will continue to support them.
Thomas Klau, I mean, since the 2007 presidential election where Jean-Marie Le Pen scored around 10% of the votes, there's been a decline in terms of votes. Even most recently, 9 months ago, the European elections, negative results for the National Front. How do you explain this resurgence? Because the party was also in big financial troubles, its militants were leaving, and suddenly...
Well, a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that Sarkozy's successful operation to, as they say in France, draguer, to cruise the far-right electorate, which worked very well during the presidential election, has failed, has perhaps even backfired. There was an attempt just before the regional elections to put immigration and national identity at the heart of the political debate, which many interpreted as a way to signal to far-right voters that their concerns would continue to be taken seriously. Obviously, Sarkozy's party, the UMP, and all the UMP's allies have suffered a major electoral rout, and we've seen a resurgence of the far right. What that means for the next presidential election is an open question, but certainly Sarkozy's operation to seduce the right-wing electorate hasn't worked out this time.
Stefan Brandler, is it a different national front? Obviously, there's a leadership transfer of power, if I may say, between Jean-Marie Le Pen, probably his daughter, but the party, is it different than the one from the 1980s, or is it still the same old national front?
Well, I think there is a change in generation right now on the way, because Jean-Marie Le Pen will probably this year step down and Marine will take over. I can tell you, I met the two people and I was struck by the difference in style. He's an old man, he's a political animal, he knows how to deal with journalists and the public, and afterwards he smiles at you and shows it was like sort of a game. Marine Le Pen is completely different. She's taking politics very seriously. She's preparing herself very well. She wanted to discuss with me during 15 minutes, and in the end I realized she wanted to exchange arguments. She wanted to know how the other side is arguing, and I think she takes it very seriously, and she's very dangerous in a certain way, because she's maybe less extreme, but she can make as many votes as Jean-Marie Le Pen, who was the old guy who will pass now the thing. And I think Marine Le Pen, she's like other people in Austria, Strache, who has not the charisma of Jörg Haider, of the big leader of the far right, but who are very dangerous, because they represent, especially in economic crisis, a far population, or a large population who is struck by the crisis.
Let me ask Jérôme Jamin from Belgium. There's been also, in terms of the sociology of the votes, the impression that there are more people who live in the countryside who now vote for the National Front. It used to be a very urban, suburban votes. Is there a change a little bit also in the Front National electorate?
Well, I don't know if there is a change in terms of the electorate, but it is sure that I agree with what has been said before me when someone was saying that this is not a surprise to see this success, because the FN had many other great scores before, and he will probably had good scores in the future. The question is